Today's episode of the Rough Drafts Podcast is brought to you by the newly updated sportsbook at unicorn.com. Unicorn has been a sponsor since the beginning, and this is honestly the best looking and most convenient the site has ever really been. Their new TV guide style layout has made finding and betting a breeze, and with a newly designed and intuitive bet slip, all the information and even access to multi-bets are at your fingertips. I've already gotten started with my LPL and LCK outrights, and even though it's only been a day into the regular season, KT has already let me down, but Unicorn won't. So check out unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase, RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to Week 7 of the NALCS Guess the Lines podcast. We are 2/3 of the way through the split. The standings have very clearly delineated themselves. It looks like we know who the playoff teams are going to be and who the not playoff teams are going to be, but there's still a lot of room in those little margins, a lot of tightly packed spaces where you can see competition is going to be fierce over the next 3 weeks. And I can't think of anyone I'd rather have break down all of these little fun, exciting matchups than my good friend and co-host, Walter Ceades, Fedczuk. Walter, how you doing, man?
My brain is broken when it comes to North America. It's TSM's to lose, and I'm not even saying that as a TSM fanboy here. Like, I think it's TSM's to lose. Yeah. Just because all the other teams this is we know what 6 teams are making the playoffs. With the exception of maybe Phoenix One having, sort of a rise here. Maybe like they could potentially be the 7th, but I think we have our 6 playoff teams. I think we're set. I think they're going to be TSM, Immortals, CLG, Dignitas, Envious, and Cloud9. What order they're going to be in, with the exception of TSM being number 1, hell if I know. It's this was a bad week to be a legacy org not named TSM. I'll put it that way. It was a bad week to be Cloud9 or CLG.
It was a weird week in general, and I think it's one of those things. It reminds me of some of the jokes that people made after Brexit, where the people have spoken and what they want is complete chaos. This week felt that way to me. It was chaos. With the teams that I expected to make really strong efforts, didn't quite come in there. Phoenix One, you talk about maybe they can make a rise. Like, now they are 3 games back of the 6th seed after they went 0-2 this week. And now, like, it feels almost impossible with just 6 left to play that they could catch a team like Cloud9. Certainly teams that are 4 games ahead like Dignitas and Envious. It's a very tall task. And it's like, given what we just saw at Rift Rivals, that breaks my brain a bit. But let's talk about the thing that made us the most excited, that we enjoyed the most from this week. What was your up of the week, Walter?
My up is going to go to Envious and Dignitas. I'm going to give it to those guys because we have wanted from them, probably all split, and even Dignitas like last split, we've wanted proof that they can play in the big dog's yard. And taking out CLG and Cloud9 with kind of definitive 2-0s. Again, here's the problem. Does it say more about Dignitas and Envious, or does it say more about CLG and Cloud9? Or is it just that there's 4, maybe 5 teams or 6 teams, if you want to include Immortals and Phoenix One, that could just all beat each other? That just any given day, one team's better than the other, they crush each other. I don't know. Like that's where it's in my head, and I don't want to give away my down, but my down is Cloud9 and CLG for getting 0-2'd by Dignitas and Envious. Like that's where we live right now, is these 4 teams are now all kind of on equal footing. And I there's nothing that definitively tells me Envious is better than Cloud9. You can say, well, Envious just 2-0'd them, but they 2-0'd them, but like, if you play that series again tomorrow, Cloud9 could easily 2-0 Envious. Like, that's the problem that I'm having here is any given day, either one of these teams could crush the other, or it could be like this really close 3-game series. And just Envious and Dignitas were the two teams that showed up on Saturday, and Cloud9 and CLG were, recovering from a Friday night hangover or something like that. So I'm broken. Like, my brain is broken looking at this and trying to figure out, like, okay, who do I trust? Because I don't trust any of these teams. I don't trust if aliens invaded tomorrow and said, give us a full team of players, and I have to pick an organization, I have to say Envious's roster is going to go play for me. TSM I trust out of North America, but like, you can shake your head all you want, whatever. I do.
No, I agree. Like, I'm shaking my head at everything underneath because I agree with you. I don't know who I throw out there. And like, yeah, like TSM is certainly looking the best right now, but we have seen spurts in which, in the early half of the season, they've had some moments here and there. But certainly, I mean, they're far and above. They've got a 74% win percentage right now. That is significantly higher than any other team. The next closest is Immortals at 63. They are the most consistent, but any of those teams underneath them, you have to look at. Do I go by like which players I like more? Do I go by the team that I think strategically has put the most together? Like, I like Envious a lot, but that's because I like Lyra, and I believe that he inspires such a great early game for them and gives them so many options on that end that it makes them a very difficult team to take down. But then you look at the rest of their roster, it's like, well, are they at the same level? When you rather have maybe someone like Someday in the top lane who could really hold things down. And Altec looked great this week, which he's a guy that has just refused to let me like him or hate him throughout his entire career. Every time I'm down on him, he looks really great. Every time I'm super high on him, he struggles. And I just pick Altec, please. Like, for my sanity's sake, decide whether you're good or not.
No. This is Adrian. This is about Adrian. Adrian is the one that is I don't think Altec is playing any differently. I think Adrian is just inherently good at figuring out what his AD carries need from him and playing to that style. We saw it with Wild Turtle. We saw it with Arrow. We've seen him when he's been dropped in these other situations, and now here he is with Altec. I think an entirely different style from the other two players, where he's adjusting to him. You see Adrian, he's roaming early on, but he is staying next to Altec in team fights. It doesn't matter if Altec is starting to take a step back. Adrian's kind of backing off with him and being like, no, buddy, like, I got you. I will make sure no one hurts you. I'm never going to let you down. I'm never going to give you up. Like, the whole meme, the whole shebang. And it's working because now Altec, you can see there's like this confidence where he knows I can go forward and I have someone who's going to peel for me, which I haven't seen from him in a while. So I don't want to like gush about Altec too much, but like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting is like there are strengths on every single one of these teams. Envious has Lyra, Dignitas has Someday, CLG has Dardoch, and sort of the team thing, and then Cloud9 has Jensen. But then every one of these teams have these like Achilles heel kind of weaknesses where you're like, that can be enough to sink that team. Like if CLG can exploit Envious's bottom lane or Envious's mid lane, like that's a weakness that they can exploit, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, man, that first weekend of the playoffs is gonna be fun. That's gonna be That's gonna be like 4 or 5 game series, entertaining as hell.
I gotta be honest, I'm super excited that I'm going to be able to go to the LCS finals because I feel like whatever combination of 4 teams gets past the first round is going to be fun. The entire playoffs is going to be fun. And it's funny because you brought up Adrian, and I'm looking at it now. What do all of the top teams in North American region have in common? Adrian, Hakuo, Ale, Smoothie, Aframu, Biofrost. 6 very, very good supports. And that, I think, has made the difference. I think that 80 carries alone, we've seen, can't do it on their own. But when you give them a support that sets them up and that clicks with them, we're seeing that really help shape teams' identities, help shape, especially as you get past the laning phase and really get those team fight moments. I think those are the players who more and more, this is not a season in which supports are kind of falling to the background and we're seeing all these hard carries doing all of the things. I think we're starting to see Like that race for like the all-pro support position is going to be brutal. I have no idea where I would vote right now. I'm glad we have 3 more weeks to find out because I have
like
no
today.
Idea. Yeah.
Biofrost is probably 1.
Yes.
I would put Hakuo at 2.
I agree.
And probably Ale at 3.
Yeah, I think that's mine.
That's probably my 3. Adrian could take it away from Ale, I think, if he has like a really, really, really strong end of the split. But
yeah,
notice I didn't even say Aframu. Like I didn't say Aframu or Smoothie at all, but that's because they aren't playing as well. So
yeah, and we say that knowing that Aframu is one of the top supports and Player of the Game awards. Like they're still having good seasons. It's just that these other guys are having even better seasons. It's just so fun to watch. And I love when we have these chaotic moments. I love that we have all these teams that are in this mid card right now, where any one of them could break in a certain direction. If I were to pick an up or a down, I think I would give my up to Envious, just because I think that because of the way they execute, I thought they were the cleanest of the kind of mid card teams. They got 2 2-0s last week, which they took care of business against Echo Fox, and they beating Cloud9 I think was big for them. If I had to pick a down, I'd pick CLG, because I felt like they threw away that Dignitas series, putting Omar God in game 2. Like, I understand you want to give the young guy some reps. I loved them bringing him in against FlyQuest. I thought that was a good call. But you can't afford to lose a series when you don't have a lot of circuit points to fall back on as far as qualifying for Worlds. CLG was first heading into this weekend. Had they won their series against Dignitas, they would still be in first because they'd be at 10-2. And obviously, we'll never know whether Dardoch would have been the difference maker and they would have been able to beat Dignitas in that series. We can't go so far as to say Omar got lost in that series, but I really hate when a team actively puts themselves away from their best chance to succeed. I think that is always the wrong call. I think that that's almost always a mistake. And I was disappointed to see it from a team that I usually like to praise for their intelligence and for their understanding of how to manage their talent and their atmosphere and everything else. I thought there was an error in judgment in that spot. In a game 2, after you're already down a game, I just felt like that was a mistake.
They have a plan, and I can't fault them for sticking to that plan. I understand it has ramifications, but at the same time, they might not be an organization in the LCS next split. Like, they have to... These teams are trying to prove value, and part of that value that Riot wants and stated out in that bullet-pointed kind of article is they want teams that are going to be willing to grow native talent, that are going to be willing to grow younger players. And honestly, the last year, you can't decry CLG. They took that CLG Academy or CLG Black team. They got a bunch of the guys from the scouting grounds. They put them together. They didn't make the Challenger Series in the spring. They still kept them together. They went to Europe to boot camp. They played in a couple of tournaments over in Europe. Came back, qualified for this Challenger Series. They weren't great in the Challenger Series, but like at some point, if you have a player that's in your house, that's on your roster, that is busting his butt, that is putting in the effort, that's putting all of this work, like, I can't fault you for giving him some stage time, for for rewarding him for the amount of effort that he's putting into it. Like, sure. We don't see scrims. We don't see... Maybe they have a 90% win rate with Omar God in scrims and Dardoch's at like 60. Like, no one knows. So I can't fault them. I understand it has some implications, but I can't fault them. Like, they had a plan going into the weekend. They probably said, we're going to play Omar God in both game 2s. And, they told him, we're going to play you both. And they stuck to their word, so...
Well, here's an idea. Why not put him in game 1, so if you lose, you still have time to adapt with your best 5? Like, they didn't have to pick game 2, right? Like, like, we're presuming that they had to, like, okay, if you promised him a game each time, play him in game 1. At least then you have time to react. At least then you take the pressure off of him being down 0-1 in a series during his second ever LCS game. I think that's a mistake. I think more like, rather than just they played Omar God, I don't think that's alone a mistake. Like I said, I liked that against FlyQuest. I think when you're down 0-1 in a series against a playoff team, in a series that if you lose drops you out of a first round bye, that to me it's that mistake. Put them in game one. Give them no pressure because, whether they lose, they still have time to bounce back. It's not a big deal if it goes the other way. That's just where I stand on it, especially with a young player like that. I would rather work on building his confidence than putting him in so much pressure in a must-win game, essentially, for them, if you're going to believe that first round bye is important. And I inherently do, just because of how many more circuit points it's worth when you can get to that second round. I thought that's where the mistake was. I thought if they put him in game one, it would have been winner. But you know what? They made their plan, and maybe I shouldn't be criticizing them for making silly decisions, because we went 0-3 last week in our smart money bets in North America. We went CLG, Dignitas, and 3 maps. We were both very confident about that at plus 115. CLG chose to put in Omar God in game 2, and that didn't work out to a game 3. We thought Phoenix 1 had a lot of confidence in them after Rift Rivals. We thought beating Dignitas was a sure thing, and we thought that beating TSM was a great fan hedge for you, and none of those worked out. Now, the good news is we're still 10-9 on the season, 431 in the black. Yep. We had some room to spare. Even if we go 0-3 this week, we'd still have room to spare. But we're not going to go 0-3 this week. We're laser focused in. I know I feel better about my guessing odds after yesterday. And we're going to go into game 1 right now. And that is going to be Cloud9 versus Phoenix 1. This is an interesting series. I think both teams, you talk about, wanting to bounce back and kind of make a statement for themselves, separate themselves from the pack. Right now, Phoenix 1 would be going to relegation. They went out to, they're 3-9 right now.
There's no relegation, so it doesn't matter.
Well, there is, because someone pointed this out on Reddit, which I forgot. There is a relegation tournament, and if you lose, it costs $3 million more to buy your way in for franchising. So arguably, this is even more valuable if you're going to be a part of franchising than a normal relegation tournament would be. That's $3 million, which, by the way, is really stupid that that's the case. It's a rule that I completely forgot about because I thought that was such a silly thing that they pointed out. But if you read the thing they put out there, that is what they're saying. That's their way of making this matter. So it does matter whether they're in a relegation series or not, weirdly enough. So since you touched on Cloud9 already, Walter, and I hope I didn't break your brain by bringing up the stupidest fact of the day, how are we feeling on Phoenix 1 now?
Mike Young is... I think it's they don't really have macro understanding. I think that at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Zig doesn't go even in lane anymore. He loses lane, and then he's trying to play catch up, and he doesn't like to play, like, he plays Shen, but he's not playing tanks where it's like, okay, I can just build armor and just be a big meat shield. Like, he's playing Kled, he's playing Gnar, he's playing Jarvan, he's playing champions where you have to get a lead so you can help pressure from the top lane, so you can help pressure in, like, a split push scenario. It doesn't seem like Ryu has very much synergy with Xpecial or Mike Young in terms of, like, getting out and roaming. He doesn't seem to want to leave his lane and roam. He seems to now be kind of back stuck in, like, I'm just gonna lane because that's the play style I know how to do, and I'm just not gonna lose lane, but I'm not necessarily gonna win lane either. And you talk about putting him up against Jensen in this matchup, and good luck, buddy. Like, probably a good thing that there can't be like a, Talia mirror match in this series or something like that. There could be another rendition of the Ryu face. Arrow's playing well, but I still think that him and Xpecial are trying to mesh on the same page. And at the end of the day, this doesn't feel like a team. I really think that going back and kind of looking at what they did at Rift Rivals is they were just able to blitz the European teams early on. They were able to speed up the pace of the game and make all these European teams play faster than what they were used to, and that kind of hid some of the facts that they aren't good at the macro game. They aren't good at these late game decisions. We got super high on them coming off of Rift Rivals, and we forgot they were like a 3-6 team. So I think reality's come back to, settle back down on Planet Phoenix 1, and they were like, oh yeah, we could play, if we win the game in 25 minutes, that's great, but other teams in North America can win the game in 24 minutes, so... Yeah.
It's tough, that was one of the things that I think when we talked about how Europe on our European show was just behind in the meta. They weren't ready to keep up with that kind of high pressure, high intensity early game. Phoenix One, that's what they were doing best with Mike Young. And there's a honeymoon period, I think, whenever you add a new player who can be kind of this explosive starter, someone who is just adding so much more to their skill set than what they had in Inori, who was just more proactive and seemed to be doing more plays around the map. But now they're starting to settle in. It's not as exciting, as fresh anymore. And I think that the habits that Phoenix One had fallen into before Mike Young got there are starting to come back again. I think that Zig has taken a massive step backwards. I point to him as one of the worst top laners in the league right now, which is unfortunate because I thought he took a huge step forward last split. But right now, 2.4 KDA. He is actually winning lane, amazingly enough, despite every visual standard you would expect. But his damage permitted is low at 385. His earned gold permitted is actually among the highest bits of his team, so he's getting a whole bunch of gold and then not doing much with it, and that's not a good place to be. It speaks to they keep throwing resources into him, hoping it's going to get him out of his funk, and meanwhile, Ryu is getting is having to suffer in his gold output, and they're not getting anything back from that either. It's just they're in a tough spot. I think that, yes, we have an aggressive jungler, like we have an aggressive early game now. Awesome. What else do you have, Phoenix One? What is your identity outside of we have the rookie of the split on our side and someone who's going to be one of the most fun junglers to watch in North America for the next couple of years? That's a great piece, but you need more than one piece to have a team. And I think that that's unfortunately where they're at right now. What do you think the line's at right now, Walter?
Cloud9 minus 200.
Okay, you get this one. I went a little too high. I said Cloud9 minus 220. It's Cloud9 minus 192, which I think is very fair. That's Phoenix One at plus 145. 3 maps is plus 105. And if you like Cloud9 to get the 2-0 here, Cloud9 does not usually have 2 back-to-back bad weeks. There have been a couple splits in their history where they've been underwhelming, but it's not very often. And if you believe that their strengths here could really overpower Phoenix One, plus 160 for the 2-0. It's not terrible odds.
No, that's not that bad.
But I don't think it's high enough. We'll see how we feel about some of the other odds here, but it's in play for sure. Let's talk about game 2 here. Team Liquid versus Envious. I mean, I'm assuming we don't have any need to talk about Team Liquid.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I thought Liquid looked scrappy against TSM. I don't know if it was TSM just kind of being disrespectful. I don't know if it was TSM just not playing it 100%. But Liquid looked scrappy. Like, I liked starting Inori. Keep playing Inori. Like, this should be what Liquid is doing, is kicking the tires on some of these other, like, mid-tier players. Because, like, Reignover should not be... It probably won't be here next split. So, look around for other junglers. Like, I don't think Reignover fits on this team anymore. Because I feel like Reignover needs a team where there's a star. Like, there's a superstar. And he makes that superstar better. He plays to their strengths. I'm thinking of, like, Ricky Rubio on the Spanish national teams, where he's playing with Pau and Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, and he's letting those guys be their studs, and he's, making all the crazy passes, and he's setting them up, and he's running, pick and pops with them, and all these other things. Like, Reignover does not deserve superstar money because he's not a superstar. What he deserves is to be the highest paid supporting player in the league. That's what his role is. And I think that Team Liquid saw it and thought, oh yeah, he's a superstar jungler because he had all these great stats, and didn't realize how much having a stud like Huni, applied to that, and how much that allowed Reignover to benefit from that. And Team Liquid doesn't have a superstar. And if you say it's Piglet, you're an idiot. You're actually just blatantly stupid. Piglet is not a superstar. You can look at his stats and be like, well, yeah, he plays pretty well, but he's not. He doesn't have the personality. He doesn't have the temperament. He does not have the moment where he completely takes over a game, and you're like, yep, that is the guy that I want to go into battle with game in and game out. And Rainover isn't playing towards him. And Rainover knows where he should be playing. And if he's not playing towards Piglet, that should be telling you that's not the guy. That's not where we should be funneling all our resources to. That's not who we should be paying like a superstar. Like, he plays on the mid and the top side of the map. That's where your superstar has to be if you're with him. And I'm not sure that Team Liquid understands what it means to create an identity in League of Legends. And Kayn has been really disappointing, because I would assume a player like that would understand that you need to establish this is what it means to play Team Liquid League of Legends. And he hasn't done it, because it feels very helter-skelter. They're picking bands, their play styles, their compositions, all that jazz. But like, the actual play that I saw from Team Liquid, especially with Inori in the lineup in Game 1 against TSM, it was scrappy. Like, they put up a fight. So I want to give the players credit for that. I don't want to give anybody else in the organization any credit. But the 5 players that played, and even Piglet, I want to give them some credit, because they did not just roll over and let TSM get a very easy 2-0. That was a hard-fought 2-0 for TSM.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have to give the players on the Rift credit. I think that it's very easy to get caught up in criticism for the organization and then correlate that with hate for the players. And I don't hate any of these players. I think that, Piglet, you mentioned, like, he's not a superstar. He's very talented, and that's inherently true. But a superstar needs to also be able to make his teammates better, and we have no evidence that that is the case. But see, this is one of those things that I would love to focus on, those kind of steps of improvement they've made in some of those mechanical plays, and they're starting to at least try some things. And then I see a Reddit comment like this. This was in the thread about Origin, deciding to basically, like, sorry, we failed to even stick around in the Challenger Series, because that's where Origin is as an org. And the commenter Moopy said, quote, "With the amount of money Team Liquid have, they are sort of worse. Imagine buying the following: Piglet, former world champion; Edward during his prime; Rainover after his MVP split; St. Vicious in his prime; Voyboy in his prime; and countless rookies, high valuable players that became starters on other teams, including Zig, Hauntzer, Dardoch, Pobelter, Aframu, Smoothie, Keen, Xpecial, Alltech, Moon, Contracts, and still have not even reached Worlds." And this is the thing, like, anytime I watch them, I can say, like, okay, well, at least they're putting some elements together, at least they're being competitive. But the fact that we're like, oh man, at least they're kind of competitive nowadays, about a team that has all of this money and resources and talent and whatever that's been thrown at the problem, and this is where they are. I think there was a post that said that you're more likely to contract literal cancer than you are to watch Team Liquid win a game, like win a series. It's just, it sucks. It tears away any chance I have to focus on that. So I'm glad you can, because I'm tired, man. I've been into the ground trying to make sense of that org. Where do you think the line is here, Walter?
Envious minus 333.
Okay, you get this one as well, because I said minus 320. I don't know why I went so low. It's Envious minus 385. Team Liquid plus 265 there. I think both of those lines are fair. I'm not worried about getting 3 maps, because I don't think this is going to 3 maps.
Nope. Not going to happen.
So we are going to move on to TSM versus Dignitas. I know you touched on Dignitas a little bit, Walter, but I want you to go a little bit more, like, as a TSM fan, what are you afraid of with this Dignitas team? What is the thing that tells you that this Dignitas team is going to be a more competitive, more interesting roster to go up against than they have necessarily been in recent splits or even recent weeks, given how they looked, I think, a step above where they were after last week? What do you think?
I don't really think they've changed all that much. I think they're just making a couple more plays here or there. Like, I don't think there's a big difference between the Dignitas that we saw last week and the Dignitas we saw before at Rift Rivals in terms of, like, I don't think anyone's playing any better. Like, the big difference is Alltech and Adrian are playing better than Big and Lod were playing, and that's kind of disappointing. Like, I really am a fan of Lod. I would really like to see him be successful, but like, Altec's actually an 80 carry. Like, he can actually play 80 carry champions, and now that Ziggs is really out of the meta, it seems like you do need to be able to like play hard carry, kind of 80 carry champions. I think that Adrian, like I said, has just made it so that Altec feels confident. And he's not running away from team fights. He is playing in team fights, and it seems like teams are not focusing on him as an 80 carry. They're really focusing on Keen. They're focusing on Someday when it gets to the team fight. So they're doing their job of protecting their 80 carry. And while we're playing, you're seeing Tristana and Caitlyn and Twitch. You really don't want the enemy team to be on top of those kind of 80 carries. You want them to be able to kind of just attack move at the very back of the fight and just take out whatever target is right in front of them. You don't need... It's not like Lucian where you're trying to dash in and just pop one of the squishy Zyra on the enemy team or anything like that. It's consistent auto attack output, and that is more efficient against a tank than it is against like an 80 carry. Like, you're not trying to blow it up. That's a Syndra's job. I think Keen's playing a little bit better, and he's... The weird thing is Keen has like a ginormous champion pool, but he kind of gets stuck on like one or two picks where you're kind of like, I get what you're doing with it, but there's other picks that do it better, like Victor. He keeps playing Victor, and I'm not like... It's not like he picks Victor, and I'm like, oh my god, why is he playing Victor? But it's just like, is that really the most optimal choice? Like, you really want to play... And at some point, it comes down to the player's comfort. If he's comfortable on the champion, I'm never going to be like, never play that champion. And he's not bad at it. But at the same time, I just feel like it's slightly suboptimal. Like, he could be playing something different.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. And, I'll say this. It speaks to the same kind of comment I made about, CLG with Omar God that frustrated me. At least when Keen plays something like Victor, it's in game 2. Like, in the games that they need to win, you see them going a little bit more chalk, except for Shrimp, which I just want to say, as two people who are surprisingly pro-Nunu in the professional meta. That was fun, right? We can admit that was fun to watch. Mike Young kind of get neutralized by a Nunu of all things.
You mean the champion that is designed, other than Ivern, to neutralize the enemy jungler? Yeah. It was great. Shrimp is turning into like the next kind of like Keen style player where he's like just kind of good enough that he can stick around the LCS. And I'm waiting for him to take that next step where now he's like just above that step where it's like, okay, no, he's actually like a pretty decent LCS jungler. And this has been the split. He doesn't have a lot of stupid deaths. Like, he's cut down on the stupid deaths. And I think that was when he was on Apex, that was really what killed him, was he just had some deaths that just made you shake your head and just go, why? And he's really cut down on those. He isn't as aggressive in that, like, 1 minute to 10 minute mark. But, like, once 9 to, like, 12 minutes hits, that's where he starts ramping it up. That's when they start really moving around the map, and he starts trying to exert some influence and take down towers. And yeah, like, he's Saint Vicious's, protege. Saint's, baby little, bouncing baby boy that he's now pushed out into the world and said, go, my son, teach everyone the power that is Nunu. Like, I forget who in our Discord keeps bringing up Cho'Gath Jungle and wants to see Xerxes play it. Like, Shrimp is the guy that if anybody's going to play Nunu Jungle, it's going to be him in North America because Saint, for some weird reasons, loves Cho'Gath Jungle.
Yeah.
I can see it, but the Q is so hard to hit that it's just like, I'm not sure I like it much. But yeah. Shrimp will be the guy that plays it because that's one of Saint's things is like, I like Cho'Gath Jungle. It's great champion. Okay,
I like it more than I like Jungle Maokai. I was unimpressed by Jungle Maokai this week.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I will say, I think the other thing that's really made Shrimp interesting, who do you think, if you had to guess, Walter, who are the 3 highest junglers in terms of kill participation? Who's top 3?
Well, one of them is going to be Shrimp.
Yes, Shrimp is number 2. Who do you think is number 1 and who do you think is number 3?
I'm going to say not Dardoch.
No, Dardoch is
not
one
Dardoch.
of the worst.
I'm going to say Lyra and...
Lyra's number 3.
Acadian?
Mike Young is at the top, 76.5.
I thought maybe with him not having as many games, he would be a little bit lower. But
He's played 22. He's played 22 games already, which sounds like it seems crazy, but he's played almost. They put him in rather early in the season.
That's
it's
fair.
just that we've gotten. He still feels so fresh to us, but it is one of those things where you had to hit 20 to even be on my list. But yeah, it's Mike Young at 76.5, Shrimp right behind him at 75.9, and then it's a little bit of a drop off to Lira's 71.6. But that's just kind of that tells you what category Shrimp has put himself in. He's put himself in the category of support or of junglers that know how to make their teammates better and are setting them up rather than trying to make individual plays. And I think that is a big shift from where he's been. Yes. What do you think the line is on this, Walter?
TSM minus 250.
Okay, I get this one. I said TSM minus 240. It is TSM minus 238, which I think is very fair. Dignitas is at plus 175. 3 maps at plus 110. I think this could very easily be a 3-map series. I think it's in play. You don't think they could take a map?
This is late season TSM though.
It's fair.
And TSM, other than like the Yellow Star split and like one other, they turn it on at the end of the split and they go on a tear going into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I mean they're gonna win. I don't think that Dignitas is gonna pull off the upset. But you don't think they could have kind of like they did last split where they have like a weird game 2 and then come back to crush in game 3? I don't know. Maybe let's look at some of the other odds. Maybe there are better ideas than that. CLG versus Echo Fox. Are we just done with Echo Fox? Is this the point where we're watching them as a novelty, as they kind of try to build something up for this future academy plan, or is there something that you can look forward to for what are you looking to watch this week, I guess?
From Echo Fox?
Yeah, from Echo Fox.
Nothing. I'm out on them. They're gonna be really they built themselves to just be here, to establish themselves as a long-term brand in the LCS and in esports. They had an incredible Evo weekend. If you watch fighting games, they had a great Evo weekend there. Yeah, I think this is just gonna be like the likable team that's really good at like branding themselves and marketing the organization. And they have Rick Fox, and as long as they have Rick Fox and people are going to pay attention to him, like this is the like, I'm going to introduce my parents to the LCS. Oh, my dad knows sports. You know Rick Fox, right? He used to play for the Lakers. He owns a team, and this is going to be the team. They're not that great, but they're kind of these lovable losers. Like that's what Echo Fox is. And
yeah, they've got a jet. It's a really cool jet.
And I'm a TSM fan. I don't have time. I don't have to deal with lovable losers anymore. Like, I have a winning organization. Like, I like Rick Fox. I'm glad he's involved. I'm just afraid that, 2 years into franchising, we're going to be looking at this and going, okay, when are you going to win games? Like, we're at that point already, but, like, with franchising, when they finally are going to spend a whole bunch of money, hopefully, and actually get good players, I don't see it. I don't see them becoming a good team in the next 2 years. So, I don't care.
This is the thing, right? Like, on the one hand, I like the fact that they're playing so many subs. I think that is a positive for a team that's in the spot that they are.
Yeah.
They feel confident that with
tires.
Froggen, they're not going to get relegated and have to pay that extra $3 million. So, they feel like they can put some things out there. And we saw every position outside of support this week they put in a substitute. They gave Greg time. They gave Brandini time. Mm-hmm. They gave, DeMonte got the full week, which you can argue whether that was a good or bad thing for forever. But, this is the thing that worries me. I'm not sure that any of these pieces are all that good. Like, I know that you gotta play the numbers game, and if you get enough pieces, you say, well, like, oh, one of them is going to work out. Some, at least a couple of these will eventually pay off into something. And, I don't want to say that they were wrong to try to build this in-house scrim culture and not scrim anybody else, just keep it to these teams here. But I think you can only get so much better when you're against a certain caliber of opponent. I think that you have to, at some point, push yourself against a higher class of team. And I just see a lot of talents that are stagnating. I don't think Grig's gotten better since the last time I saw him on the Rift. I don't think Brandini's gotten better since the last time I saw him on the Rift. I don't think Mash has gotten better. And when you're in that spot, you got to wonder whether the system they're going with right now is the best thing for their development in the long run. I understand the concept, and I'm glad they tried it. Someone needed to, but I don't think it did them any favors here. I don't think it's going to do them any favors this week either. It certainly didn't do my fantasy team any favors, by the way. Thanks for letting me know 15 minutes in advance before I had thought to even change it. The Frogman wasn't going to play Echo Fox. Appreciate it. But where do you think the line is on this game, Walter?
CLG minus 333.
Okay. I get this one because I said CLG minus 550. I was on the exact opposite end. It is CLG minus 455. So right in between where we were. That puts Echo Fox at plus 310. And new rule on the podcast, until we know what 5 players are going to be playing for Echo Fox at any given week, stay away. I'm not betting on a team where I don't know who they're playing. I don't like it.
Bet on them at all?
Maybe. I don't know. We'd have to go back.
Let me go back. I'm looking back right now. TSM to 2-0 them back in week 4.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we bet on them to beat Dignitas in week 3. We bet on them to beat Cloud9 in week 2.
Did we win any of these bets?
No.
No. Okay.
No, we got the TSM and we bet on that. We got them to beat Team Liquid in week 1. And that was at plus 220. That was where we got our big lead from.
God, man, no. Back when Team Liquid was minus 200 something on teams. Oh, the good old days. Let's move on to game 5 here. FlyQuest versus Immortals. As an Immortals fan, am I allowed to get hyped again after last week? Am I allowed to start believing that the pieces are coming back together?
You're allowed to do whatever you want.
That does not fill me. That does not make it sound like you're confident in this.
Like I said, I think this is a one-horse race right now. And I don't think any of those other 5 teams have proven that they are good enough that I would be truly worried about them in a best-of-5 series. Immortals is the top of that bunch. Immortals is the fizz at the top of the Coca-Cola. Like, I will admit, out of the 5 teams, they look the most likely to do it. But I'm not sure. I'm still not sure about, because I'm again, like, Immortals could probably beat the other 4 teams below them, and the other 4 teams could probably beat them. You know, there's ways that it'll happen. There's strengths and weaknesses for all of them. So now I'm starting to look at these other 5 teams as, okay, in Boston or in the second round of the playoffs and they're matched up against TSM, how do I feel about this team against TSM? And I look at Immortals and I go, Pobelter versus Bjergsen, Cody, Sun, and Ale versus Doublelift and Biofrost. Like, that's the problem, is I'm looking at those and they're close, but I don't think they're close enough where I would think it's anything better than a 3-1. And, like, I don't think they win more than 1 game necessarily against them. And then that's putting all of their weight on Flame and Xmithy. And I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure where the meta is going to go for top lane and how Flame continues to fit into it and that, like, things like that. So I have worries, like, in that regard. I think they're going to kill FlyQuest. Like, I'm not worried about them this week, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to get excited about them going into the playoffs, I think you're totally justified. You have to understand that at the end of the day, they're going to be fighting against the longest tenured and best team in North American history. Most likely. Like, it's not a shoo-in. I don't write the scripts for Riot, but, like,
I love this. This is cocky Walter coming back to the forefront.
But this isn't being cocky. This is me being realistic. Chase, when was the last time that TSM missed the finals in North America?
I would love to say that there was one, but there wasn't.
You're talking season 2, like MLG Raleigh, where they didn't even go.
Yeah, that's not a league. Like, since the LCS has existed, they're always there. Yep. The road goes through TSM. Yep. That is undeniably true. I just love this idea of, like, you're not even talking about just making the finals. You're like, well, maybe Immortals as the second best team might win a game. That's where I think you're getting to an interesting spot. TSM has lost finals before, but in all reality, I mostly agree with you. I like Cody Sun and Ale a little bit more than you do. I think they could go even against Double X and Biocross.
That's fine. That's fine.
And I will say, there was nothing more fun to me as an Immortals fan. I watched Game 3 with a couple Cloud9 fans on our Discord. Shout out to Rasta Duppy. And also, I'm sorry, because he had to watch as Flame hit the Flame Horizon against Ray's Shen in like less than 18 minutes, I think it was. Like, it was something absurd. Like, it was Ray was so horribly bullied out and Flame was so dominant that it somehow meant that even a Jensen that was like 4-0-1 at like the 25-minute mark wasn't enough to save that Cloud9 team. I think that Flame is proving that he is another level of threat than I think that most of these other top laners are. Where do you think the line is on this, Walter?
I'm going to say Immortals minus 400.
Okay, you and I split this because I said that as well. It is Immortals minus 500. It is FlyQuest plus 325. The 2-0 odds, if we believe that Immortals go to 2-0, and I happen to believe they will, because I don't think the FlyQuest is very good, would come out to it's minus, so we're not taking that.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Unless it's like minus 105, and even then that's if there's no other value.
It's about minus 120 something. So yeah, it's not worth. Next up, Game 6, Phoenix 1 versus Team Liquid. I don't think we need to talk about this series for very long. Is this something where you expect the bounce back for Phoenix 1, or do you think that they're going to have to fight for this one?
It's probably a bounce back just because I think their players are better.
Yeah.
I don't have any other thoughts. I just think Phoenix 1's players are better just across the board.
I agree. Where do you think the line is?
I have it at Phoenix 1 minus 300.
Yeah, so this is my worst guess of the week. I said Phoenix 1 minus 200 because I'm like, look, Phoenix 1 is 3-9. A 3-9 team should not be more than minus 200 favorites against anybody.
Chase, you do realize that algorithmically, Phoenix 1 beat the 3 best teams in Europe multiple times too, right?
Well, but we didn't necessarily see Rift Rivals translate into effects in Europe. I didn't see Rift Rivals make much of a blip in some other predictions. So I wasn't taking it into account.
That's fair.
Phoenix 1 minus 417. Which, for the record, and this is the part where I'm a little mad at Unicorn. They're saying that it's more likely that Phoenix 1 beats Team Liquid, team that went 0-2 last week, 3-9 team, than it is for Envious, a 7-5 clear playoff team, to beat Team Liquid.
Hey, Chase, you do remember that Phoenix 1 was favored over Dignitas last week, right?
I'm just saying it continues to be dumb. I thought that the fact that they lost to Dignitas should mean that they don't make this mistake again. Clearly, I was mistaken about their proclivity to make mistakes.
What's the Liquid underdog?
The Liquid underdog is plus 290. I'm not letting you take that bet.
Oh, no, I'm not taking it either. I have a spreadsheet that I have to fill out with all this stuff, so...
That's fair.
Peek behind the curtain that I have all these. And then I make Nick the producer run all of this through like an algorithm machine and come up with my guesses.
Yeah, I'm not happy with how your algorithms have been going. You've been scarily accurate recently. Let's move on. Echo Fox versus Team Solo Mid. I mean, it's not like you guys needed the help, but the fact that Echo Fox is probably not going to be playing their best players makes this more than a done deal, right? I think
Listen, Echo Fox has been out of the past 3 splits, they've been the one that gives us a really, really bad loss twice. So I'm not going to say it's a done deal, but it's probably a done deal.
It's probably a done deal. Feels like it should be a done deal.
Yeah, if they're not going to play Froggen, if Froggen's not starting, I write this in pen. But, if Froggen starts, there's a chance. There's always a chance that Froggen's playing. But, yeah.
Where do you think the line is on this?
TSM minus 750.
Okay, you get this one because I went too low. I said TSM minus 600. It's TSM minus 833, which is where it should be. Echo Fox plus 475. Don't bet on this series. There's no value. And we don't even know for a fact that Echo Fox is going to be throwing their best guys out there. So don't do it. Never worth it. Dignitas minus Cloud9. This one's interesting to me. Are we Cloud9? This is a must-win for Cloud9, right?
I would say so, yeah. Because right now they're in 6th.
So how do they get there? What do they need to do to pull this off and make sure that they're going to be okay heading into next week?
They need a second carry. Not a second playmaker, because Smoothie can be a second playmaker. He can be a guy that engages and sets everything up. They need someone else to, actually do damage. And I'm sure Sneaky does damage, but I mean, actually does damage. I mean, someone that carries the team fight through killing people. I really would be interested in seeing, the number of, double, triple, and quadra kills that, Sneaky has this split. Or that he would have over the past 2 years of his career or anything like that. Because people always bring up, oh, Sneaky's great, he's an okay laner, he's fine in team fights, he's right. But think about 80 carries. When I think about 80 carries, I don't think about these consistent, I don't think about Mash Me. And Sneaky's just he's Donald Trump's version of Mash Me. Let's put it that way. He's a super rich man's version of Mash Me.
Yeah.
Not to get political, that's just the first rich person's name that I thought of.
I would have gone with Mark Cuban, but that works too. I get where you're coming from.
Anyways, but when I think of 80 carries, I think of Uzi, Double Lift, Forgiven, Wei Zhao, all these guys that are playmakers that have these defining moments where they completely pop off. Wild Turtle, in his very first start, had a frickin' pentakill. Sneaky's pentakills are some of the most, blasé, he got a pentakill. Just the most blasé, drawn-out affairs where you're pretty sure that the pentakill timer stopped for a second just so it would count. And that's not to discredit him. He's been a top 4, top 3 80 carry since, season 4. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying he's such a different style of 80 carry. And that's not what they need. That's not what Cloud9 needs. When you have Impact and Ray that neither of them can play, good, they don't play well for an entire 35-minute games. They have a 5-minute burst where you're oh yeah, Impact was a world champion and, single-handedly carried this team into Worlds last year. And then you spend the other 25 minutes going, he knows his, keyboard's plugged in, right? He knows that all these inputs are actually going into the game. And it's the same thing with Ray. And then Contracts, he's young. He's a jungler. I don't expect him to be the guy that's putting up pentakills at this point in his career. It's got to be Sneaky because he's the veteran. He's the guy who's been in this organization for literally ever.
But we know it's not going to be. And this is, I got a conversation with someone on the YouTube comment section, which I love having conversations with you guys. Please do comment. I will respond to all of them. And I hate to say I told you so, and so I'm not going to, even though I just did. But last week was a perfect example of why Sneaky's not a top 380 carry in my mind. He got outplayed pretty hard by Apollo and Hakuo, and then Cody Sun and Ale. He had a really bad week. And that doesn't mean that he's a bad player in the same way that I don't think his best weeks make him a top 3 superstar. I think he's solid. I think he's very good. And he's consistently very good. And that consistency makes him a very valuable commodity. I think that he has inherent value in the sense that you can put him on your roster and you know what he's going to be. and he's going to be good without drawing a whole bunch of resources, which, given how much they pour into Jensen, is necessary. It's very hard to have a hard carry style AD carry when your mid laner is getting a huge chunk of those resources. Right now he's getting 26% of his team's gold. Well, I wrote an article about Power of Evil last week that I hope you guys read. I'm going to put it in the comment section, where Power of Evil was getting 25.5% of his team's gold and was massively ahead of the next closest. Jensen, it's even more so. And I think that might be one of the problems as well. As good as Jensen is, if he's the only one that's scaling up and getting those resources, and it's hampering the rest of his teammates from being able to make plays, I consider this a concern.
Jensen is Russell Westbrook. Bjergsen is LeBron James.
Yeah.
That is what you are looking at right here. And Bjergsen, think about young LeBron. Young LeBron was Russell Westbrook. Going after his own stats, constantly crashing the boards, constantly, going for the slams, going for the jump shots. Like, go back and watch the 2007 finals. Go back and watch them get manhandled by the Spurs. They don't lose because LeBron James wasn't the best player on the court. He was. They lose because the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth best players on the court were playing for San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happens. And that's when I talk about Cloud9 and I talk about them versus TSM. That's what that gap is what I'm talking about. And when I talk about Sneaky, like, AD carries can make plays and not have super high resources. They can still output a ton of damage, and they can still make these plays and totally clean up team fights. Like, I know Sneaky has done it before. He did it in Season 5 when everyone was floundering and no one could carry on that team. He can do it. It just seems like he either doesn't want to or he's gotten lazy because he has Jensen, and everyone on Cloud9, including their fans, just expect that Jensen's going to be the one that saves the day. And honestly, that's unfair to put that much pressure on him. Like, I get it. You're giving him all his gold. You're giving him all the resources. But when you've not won a title with him as that centerpiece, you have to look at it, and it's not just his fault. It's not just because he didn't hit R. Other players have got to step up. And Sneaky, being the veteran who's been there since Season 3, has to be the guy to do it. And he's just not.
Well, and I think some of that is a coaching problem too, though. Like, that's in-game strategy. They're telling Jensen, hey, we're going to give you everything because we trust that you can win it for us. But no one man is an island. You can't win in isolation. And this is the kind of thing that I hope when Cloud9 looks back over the footage, here are the numbers that I think are really going to stand out. Game 2 against Envious, Jensen went 5-1-3. They lost. Game 2 against Immortals, 3-1-6 by Jensen. They lost. Game 3 against Immortals, 6-1-6 by Jensen. He was 4-0-1 at the 20-minute mark. Lost. It doesn't matter if Jensen's hard carrying. It doesn't matter that Jensen is right now looking like the best mid laner in the league, because if he's not getting any help, if getting him to that spot requires hamstringing everyone else on your team, that's a problem. And for me, like, I understand your proclivity to go towards Sneaky because he is the veteran, but Impact is a veteran as well. And the top lane is where they were getting that secondary
Impact
presence
is just playing like crap. That's the difference, though.
Let's play everyone's favorite game. Guess the top laner. Player A, 2.9 KDA,
Okay.
negative 83 gold differential at 10 minutes, 419 damage per minute, 247.4 earned gold per minute.
Okay.
Player B, 2.5 KDA, negative 31 gold differential at 10 minutes, 395 damage per minute, 238.2 earned gold per minute.
I have to ask a question. Is one of these Ray and one of these Impact?
Absolutely, yes.
Ray has the higher DPM. He's player A.
Yeah, he's player A. He has a better KDA, higher DPM, and higher earned gold per minute than Impact right now. And Ray's stat line that I just read out was pretty damn bad.
Yeah.
But by the way, Impact's kill participation, which I didn't mention this because this would have been a dead giveaway, 55.3% right now, his kill participation. That is the worst among active top laners not named Lorlo. What I'm saying, Cloud9 fans, is that you've got some problems you need to figure out, and I don't think it's a talent problem. I think it's systemic problems.
That's the second worst one in the league.
Yeah. It's really bad.
That's worse than Looper.
Yeah, it's worse. It's literally. I'm not kidding. It's worse than anyone not named Lorlo. That's where you are, Impact. I want you to know that. Just take that as you will.
Oh man.
I feel bad, man. Shout out to former world champions, Piglet and Impact. Oh boy. What do you think the line for this series is, Walter? This is a must-win for me.
Cloud9 minus 250.
Oh, I get this. I said Cloud9 minus 150. Cloud9 minus 125. Dignitas minus 105.
So it's basically...
Yeah, the casinos are done giving Cloud9 credit. Prove it.
I didn't expect that. I applaud the casinos for doing that, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I applaud them for that. Like that, I respect's real. You know?
Yeah. And, I think that's unfortunately for Cloud9 fans. I think that's where they are right now. It's minus odds for plus 30 maps, so we're not going to go that way. CLG versus Immortals. This is the series of the week for me. Of course, I say that because I'm a biased Immortals fan, but I think this is going to be a really important battle at the top of the table. Both of these teams are currently 9-3. I think that first round bye is going to be immensely valuable, just because I think that the pack, that 2 through 6 spot, as you've mentioned, is so tight. So many of those teams can take games off of each other. You really don't want to be playing in a first round series. And then the circuit points are so much higher if you get past the first round. So I think this game has a lot on the line. What's the difference maker, Walter? What separates these two teams ultimately?
Does CLG show up in games 1 and 2? If they don't win game 1 and they don't win game 2, I think CLG has to 2-0 this, because I think Immortals are good enough and they're smart enough and they adapt well enough that Dardoch has to have like 2 crazy games, or Xmithy's just gonna out team him. Like, we want to talk about other players that make their teams better versus just going for themselves. Like, Dardoch seems to just go after his own stats. He's playing for himself. He's playing for his own plays. And Xmithy is like the complete counter opposite, where he is totally playing for his team. And I think that works really, really well with the Immortals roster. Flame, I'm still hesitant to call Flame like a superstar, but he's a star. He's a stud. He's someone that Xmithy can put a lot of time and energy into. And like, Paul Belter's a solid guy. He's top 4, top 5. At his peak, he's been a top 3. He's been somebody that we've argued, does he deserve to be with Jensen and Bjergsen? And while he's not there this split, he's still good. He's still serviceable. He's smart. He plays within himself. And then you have Ale and Cody Sung, and you have Cody that's a little bit more reserved, and you can still tell, not that he has nerves, but you can still tell he's a rookie, that he's young, that he hasn't played a lot of splits, so he's still really keeping himself down and keeping himself on a leash. And you have Ale, who can just be like, it's like fire and ice in the bot lane. Cody is very calm, cool, collected, playing with himself. And Ale is like, I'm going to try and throw and flash with this hook over this one wall, and hopefully I hit someone. If not, I might just get instantly blown up. Like, he is totally, I want to make plays, I want to make plays, I want to make plays. And all these pieces work really well together because they can play off of each other. Xmithy can be, more calm, reserved. Let's just kind of sit back, let everything farm out. I'll go up to top lane, make sure Flame gets the Flame Horizon. Or he can buddy up with Ale, and they can be this kind of aggressive, let's make some plays in the early game. Let's, get aggressive on towers, push down at first tower at like 8 minutes, that type of stuff. Whereas CLG, I think, only works if Dardoch just goes off and is able to move that gold. We talked about this before. Jungler that has a gold lead, he's able to move that lead around the map. It doesn't have to just stay in one lane or the other. When he's able to do that, I think he excels. But when he doesn't get this sort of massive lead for himself that he can influence and force other people to respect that he's 2,000 gold ahead of his opponent jungler, I don't know what else he does. It's not like he's known for, smite stealing away Baron or Dragon or anything like that. Like, he's only known for getting these massive leads for himself in the early game by ganking. And Xmithy's kind of the opposite of that. He's kind of like a jack of all trades where he can do everything, except, get these massive leads for himself through ganking.
It's funny that you say all that, because I agree with you inherently. The eye test tells me, Dardoch is very feast or famine. Xmithy is very consistent. But here's something interesting. We're going to play Guess the Player one more time. We usually only do this once per pod, but this was something, as you were talking about this, I could not help but notice this.
Okay.
Jungler A has a 72 kills, 90 deaths, 214 assists, or 3.2 KDA. 64.1% kill participation.
Okay.
Negative 104 gold differential at 10 minutes. 285 damage per minute. 209.1 earned gold per minute. Jungler B, 72, 94, and 214 for a 3.0 KDA. Literally just 4 more deaths. Otherwise, it's the exact same. 67.5% kill participation. 35 gold differential at 10 minutes. 289 damage per minute, just 4 different. 209.0 earned gold per minute, literally a tenth of a point different.
B is Xmethy, A is Dardoch.
That is true. You got it. And that is absurd. They're that close if you just look at the numbers. And you know, obviously, like,
That's
you
ridiculous.
know, yeah, you notice, like, clearly, like, you could tell a couple of things, right? Like, Dardoch tends to come after the 10-minute mark because that's when he starts really snowballing, you know, whereas Xmithy does more in the early game. And, you know, so the little differences, you know, and Xmithy does it more consistently, whereas Dardoch, his numbers are kind of ebbs and flows, but they're basically the same stat line overall, which blew my mind. I never would have said that in a million years, but that's got to be the weirdest comparison of the week. They get there through completely different means, but that is one of those things that tells you that the numbers can't tell you everything. Because if I just read off those numbers, you would think those players were very similar, and yet somehow they have two very different mindsets, different approaches to the game, and have two very different styles as to how they help their team.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. It's a fascinating thing to walk down, and it is something that as an Immortals fan, I'm worried that maybe Xmithy isn't as good as he was at the beginning of the split, and we just haven't caught up to that knowledge yet. So it's a concern for me. It's a mild concern right now. Not freaking out. Just a little concerned. Just a bit. Where do you think the line is on this, Walter?
This is the one that I'm super confused by why you went the way you did.
Okay.
I have Immortals minus 150.
I'm going to get the point, because CLG is the favorite at minus 143. And I said CLG minus 130. I'm surprised you're surprised. They're both 9-3, and CLG was more favored in the beginning of the season than Immortals was. Aren't you the one that always talks about the algorithm? Who was favored at the beginning of the season?
Better team.
I'm not disagreeing.
You said it's CLG minus 150?
It's CLG minus 143. We get Immortals at plus 110. And we're absolutely taking Immortals at plus 110 for the record.
And that means CLG is 2-0ing them, just so you know.
I mean, yes, I understand that this is a terrible thing for me, but I mean, are you telling me you don't want to make that bet?
No, I mean, I'd make that bet, but you're the the invested party here, so.
Yeah, well, I already accept the bet.
I want Immortals to lose because I want them into that dredge of all the other 4 teams, and I want to watch them all, try and crawl up onto land as TSM is sitting there in their golden chair, like, yes, welcome. Welcome. I am Hades, Lord of Death. You are all dead. I am king here.
It could be rough. I have a feeling that whoever comes to TSM in the second round is going to be beaten up, and TSM is going to be fresh, and it's going to be terrifying.
It's going to be fantastic.
Let's go on. Last series of the week, we're looking at Envious versus FlyQuest. Is there anything that you really want to say about this series? Anything at all that's interesting to you?
I get to watch Lyra play. I get to watch Envious play. Like, that's what I'm excited about. I like watching Envious play. I want to see Apollo continue to improve. I wish FlyQuest would just go away. You're an annoying little gnat that's just all of a sudden like, oh, we're good again. No, you aren't. Please stop this. You're bothering me. You're actively bothering me. It's annoying. Please.
Are you telling me that the 2 games they lost against, who was it? They were playing against... CLG, where they threw at Baron twice for absolutely no reason, was a frustrating thing to watch and made you wonder why they're an LCS team in the first place?
This is like if the NBA had a franchise and was like, you guys, let's get Michael Finley, Hito Turkoglu, Latrell Sprewell. I'm trying to think of like.
Look, I mean, look, some of these are popular players. You have to admit that.
Peja Stojakovic. And like, I don't know. I need like a mediocre, like Earl Watson.
Look, just point to the Sacramento Kings once they got rid of Boogie. You don't have to work this hard, Walter.
No, because it's got to be like veterans that everyone kind of liked at a time and are like when they left, when they retired, they were all way worse than at their primes. Like that was like, remember Hito Turkoglu on the freaking Clippers? He was awful.
I've tried not to.
It was
Thanks
terrible.
for reminding me.
You remember Latrell Sprewell when he went back to Minnesota? It was awful.
I feel like FlyQuest fans, and I know you're out there, and I just want to say, A, I'm sorry, but B, like, outside of high, I think it's time to admit that these guys are ready to hang it up. Except for Wild Turtle. Wild Turtle and Moon will land elsewhere, but the other two, and maybe high as well.
No.
Shot calling is rough.
No, I cannot listen to another split of like us hyping up high because he's shot calling. He's not good enough to play mid lane anymore.
Well, that's I kind of disagree with that. I thought his mechanics in that series against CLG were fine. It was his shot calling that failed, and that's the problem with him. I think mechanically he's like the 6th or 7th best mid laner in the league, and shot calling is what made him valuable, and the shot calling's been bad. So,
all right,
what's the point again?
All right, let's play which mid laner would you rather have than high.
Yeah, let's do
this right quick. Let me pull up the roster since I just closed it.
Am I becoming the guest all of a sudden?
No, because you said something that I just don't agree with.
Okay, hold on. I'll ask you. Okay. I'm ready for this. Okay. Obviously, you're not taking him over Bjergsen.
Nope.
I think that's safe. You're not taking him over Pobelter.
Nope.
You're not taking him over Huhi.
Nope.
You take him over Keen.
Nope.
You take him over Niski.
No.
That's a little bit closer for me. You don't take him over Jensen.
Nope.
You don't take him over Froggen.
Nope.
Do you take him over what we've seen from Ryu this split?
No.
Oh, I think High's been better than Ryu this split. Ryu has not had a good split.
Ryu hasn't had a good split, but I think he's still a better planer.
Okay. And do you take him over Golden Glue?
I mean, yes. I take him over Golden Glue.
Okay, so you have him 9th. I have him at 7th. Because I think I'd rather have... I think he's more consistent than Niski right now.
Right, but I'd rather have the upside of Niski.
That's fair.
I'd rather have the upside of Niski / Pyrian than I would High.
Okay. Then I think that's a fair argument. So I maybe drop him to 8th. I think he's done better than Ryu as a split. Yeah, you're right. This isn't a good sign.
You're like, I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's just you're right, because the problem is that he has no ceiling. Like, this is who he is now at this point in his career. And the ceiling has always been extended by his shot calling, and his shot calling was bad this week. So what's the point? This is for all the marbles, Walter, because we're tied 5-5 going into this. What do you have the line? Envious versus FlyQuest.
Envious minus 300.
Congratulations. Yet another victory. You mean person. I hate all of this. It was very close. I had Envious minus 240. It was right in the middle of us at Envious minus 278. You were just a few points closer. That puts us to 7-9 on the season in your favor. I don't like this. I have work to do, clearly. So let's just dive into some smart money bets so I can at least help the viewers out and feel a little bit better.
What was the underdog value for FlyQuest?
The underdog value was plus 200.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need that. Smart money bets, Walter. Okay. We're taking Immortals plus 110 over CLG.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that has to be done. What else do you want? Because I've found that if I don't let you pick, you're going to blame me afterwards. So this is all on you.
Problem is, there's not like anything really good. Like I'd almost take like Cloud9 minus 125 over Dignitas.
I think that's a great pick. Because I think Cloud9 needs the bounce back, and I don't see them going. Yeah. I don't see them going 0-2. I think 2-0 is much more likely than a 1-1 or an 0-2. Because I just think that they do very well under pressure usually.
Yeah.
You really don't like Dignitas taking a map against TSM?
That's where I'm looking. The problem is, like, this just feels like like I said, Team Liquid played scrappy against TSM. This just feels like a TSM comes out, wins 4 games in 29 minutes against Dignitas and Echo Fox, and just gets ready for the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
this just feels like this week where TSM is like, all right, we were kind of sloppy against Liquid. Let's just come out, shut everyone else up, and establish ourselves as we're 1,000% the number 1 seed, and you're gonna come to Boston, you're gonna have to beat us. That's my only worry with that. But like, yeah, it's likely that Dignitas can win a game. I think that Someday versus Haunter is kind of that's the matchup that does scare me.
Do you feel better about taking Phoenix 1 to get a map over Cloud9 plus 105 to go to 3 maps? Do you feel more confident with that?
It's about the same level, in all honesty. So I would say TSM Dignitas 3 maps, just because it's more value.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's gonna be tough to get too much value this week. The underdogs are super heavy underdogs, and for good reason. While a lot of the favorites, there's just not enough 2-0 value there. But that's where we're gonna land. Immortals plus 110 over CLG, Cloud9 minus 125 over Dignitas, TSM and Dignitas getting to 3 maps plus 110. And this podcast has come to an end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you should subscribe here on YouTube or on SoundCloud, or you should at the very least keep up with us on Twitter at Rough Drafts Pod. If you want to keep up with all of our news for any shows that we do. We did 2 Final Cut movie episodes last week that, if you guys like talking about films and you want to see what we thought about Baby Driver and Spider-Man Homecoming, you should totally check out.
Absolutely.
And we try to do a lot of those side projects whenever we can. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. Of course, you can talk to us on social media. I'm not just in the comment section on YouTube. I love talking to you guys about anything I said today. At RedShirtKing for me. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
Yeah, and you don't even have to talk to us on social media. You guys can hop into our Discord channel. There's a link down in the description where I don't tell my bosses, but I'm at work and I'll check the Discord. Especially if I get a notification that someone messaged me, which happens more frequently than I expected. So hop in on the Discord. We all hang out in there. We don't just talk about League of Legends. We talk about life. We talk about movies. We talk about music. We just talk about what's going on. It's a great group of people that I'm gonna call friends. It's great. It's nice. Meeting people on the internet is good fun. But if you do want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Ceades_LOL. And Chase, I know I've been crushing you, in the guest lines this last couple weeks. I was a little nervous there. That last line got me a little nervous. I had to go check it and make sure that I was closer than you. So, just so you know, I was just right on the edge, but the champ is the champ for a reason. So.
Yeah, I made my adjustments based on you making adjustments to me, which is getting a little silly now in where these mind games are going. But I really want this, man. I'm down 2. I'm only down 2 weeks. I've still got time. I want to believe I'm gonna get back to the drawing board, and we'll be back next week. Wednesday for Europe, Thursday for North America, like always. And until next time, bye, Internet.
You can follow the Rough Drafts Podcast on all your favorite social media sites. Twitter at Rough Drafts Pod, Facebook.com/Rough Drafts Pod, SoundCloud.com/Esports Rough Drafts, YouTube.com/Rough Drafts Podcast, as well as on iTunes by searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. The Rough Drafts Podcast is supported by our lovely Patreons at Patreon.com/Rough Drafts Pod, and by viewers like you. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.